why is it not okay for me to be like, you know what? This is too hard. But because everyone else thinks I'm smart enough to do it, I'm forced to do it. So many people are only good at a number of things, and they figure that out and they excel in that. But what about the person who's good at so many things? Who has been told by so many that they need to pursue every single one of those talents all at the same time in an exceptional way. And that they don't have time to figure it out. They need to figure it out now, because if they were you, they would go ahead and make it happen. Cool. With a lower level of expectation, you've got a heightened sense of success, because a small step is a big leap in the eyes of others. But for the gifted, a big leap is looked at as a small step, because there's this level of comparison that people do that's unfair. If you've never been identified as gifted or exceptionally talented at one thing, it's hard for you to understand why someone would be complaining about this. And I would say the only reason most people don't hear about this is because those who have been deemed gifted or a genius are completely immersed under these pressures. There's a reason why they say there is a thin line between genius and insanity. And for those who aren't there, you'll never understand that. You'll never understand the mindset of a genius when they can't figure out something and the chaos that's created in their mind. Initially is the frustration that you can't figure it out because you believe you should. Then comes the disappointment that people will be like, you couldn't figure it out? If I couldn't do it, I know Joe can. He's smart enough to figure it out. But if I can't figure it out, there's this level of disappointment like, dang, it must really be hard. Because the standard we've held Joe to is up here. And if he can't hit that, then shit, it must be out of this world. Well, that's an incredible disappointment to Joe. And the message that's being sent to the genius isn't, oh, well, I guess it's just one of those things you don't know. The message that's being sent is, you need to figure out how to do this. And it's not fair, but after years and years and years of being programmed and conditioned like this, you just develop this habit of being your hardest critic. Because so many people see greatness in you that they don't see in themselves. So they project this level of expectation on you that they don't on themselves. And they compare their lives to your life. And if you're not doing what they're doing, you're an even more failure because you're. So when I was in high school taking these upper level classes, when I passed and you passed, you weren't a failure. But in the world today, you should be. While you were in high school trying to pass entry level classes, I was forced in these higher level classes, having to do the same thing without permission. Kicked and screamed and complained to my mom that I don't want to be in these classes, but she was like, no, you're a genius, you have to be in these classes, because she had to nurture that. And I appreciate her for doing that for me, but I understood at an early age what it's like to live with those kinds of pressures, and I hated it. I still hate it today because I can't actively express this in a way that people can understand when they're not one who is deemed gifted or a genius. I constantly dumb myself down around people because I don't want them to look at me any differently than they look at themselves. I've been dealing with that my whole life. I've never been just another one of the guys. I've always been Joe, the basketball player, Joe, the genius, Joe, the president of something. We let our job titles, our businesses, our success define who we are, and I hated that. I was defined by what I did. No one asked about my character. All they would ever talk about was my intelligence and my talent, not knowing who I actually was as a person. And honestly, it's not their fault, because in this world, we're told to look at how people are on the surface first, not who they are as far as their character. It's always, oh, they're real smart, funny, they could sing, they could dance. It's never, he helps out the community, he's very nurturing. It's always how smart I am, how well spoken I am, how smart, all these different things that don't describe who I am. And for my whole life, I've been battling with people to try to get them to see who I am, not what I am. And sometimes you have to accept the fact that people will never see you for who you are, they'll only see you for what you are. And coming from someone who is gifted, that's a huge disconnect with that person. And for me personally, these last few years, I've been going through life trying to get that time back. While you were out with your friends, I was in the gym or at some club meeting doing something because I was told that I should. While you guys were drinking or smoking weed, I didn't do any of that because I didn't want to get in trouble and then everyone be disappointed in me because they said I'm not that guy. I never tried to break curfew. I never tried to break any laws. I just wanted to be like everybody else so badly. And every time I asked to be held to the same standard as everybody else, they would always tell me no. But when you're not the one that has to live up to the pressures of a high level of expectation, it's really easy for you to tell that person no. But put yourself in their shoes. If your whole life people have been telling you how great you are, how gifted you are, how smart you are, can you disappoint them? Sure you can. Are you allowed to disappoint them? Usually the answer is no. And it's not because you don't want to, because sometimes you want to because you're just tired. But a lot of people, they won't let you. And if you don't let someone fail, how could they possibly grow? And it may seem like this person may never fail because they're so much better than you in your eyes, but open your eyes. They're not better than you. They're not more talented than you. They're not smarter than you. It's just that during the early years of their life, they focused on these things. They had a gift for it, and someone identified that and was like, well, this is what you're going to do for years and years, so focus on that. Well, you got to focus on other things. You had Saturday morning cartoons. I had Saturday morning basketball practice or basketball game. Thursday after school, you probably went home and hung out with your friends. I had clubs and I actually had other classes to take. The greatest gift you can give to somebody who is of a high IQ or talented, treat them like everybody else. Because their whole life, everyone has looked at them differently than they look at themselves. And for the person with the high IQ or talent, they hate it. Because in those moments where we want to draw a connection to where we feel like you can relate to us, you remind us that we're not the same. And the more you remind us that we're not the same, the harder it is for us to relate to you, even though that's the one thing that we really, really want. Parents, if you have a child who is gifted or talented, be there for them emotionally, because the rest of their life is going to be a roller coaster. Remind them that it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to not live up to the expectations that other people have set forth in front of them. Let them know that they can do whatever it is that they want to do, and they don't have to do the things that other people are suggesting that they do. Love your child. Don't treat them as some sort of project where the end goal is that they become some sort of doctor or something. Because I can tell you one thing from personal experience. The higher the expectation, the more pressure they feel, and it doesn't turn out well. Because you end up with an introverted, analytical, intelligent person who is their hardest critic. This is a life that a lot of people don't know or can relate to, but it's one that I felt that I finally needed to share. I appreciate all the compliments and praise that people give me, but at the same time, I'm just like you. The only difference is that my entire life, people have expected greatness from me, even in moments where I didn't expect it myself. And in those moments where I wanted to be good instead of being great, people told me I didn't have the permission to be good. I had to be great. The only problem is that while I was focusing on being great, they allowed themselves to only be alright. And as the genius, we see it. We hold on to those suggestions and those words as if they're gospel. Because to the mind of a genius, it's analytical. We process. And before we could even have our own thought, we had people our whole lives thinking for us. So we're programmed that way. We're people pleasers. People want us to do this and want us to do that, and they're so excited about us doing it that we just figure out a way to do it, even if the entire way we're completely miserable. We just don't want to let that person down because of the level of expectation they have. I don't expect you to relate. I just hope that you can somehow understand what it's like to live this kind of life every day. To accept the praise people give you, you unknowingly purchase the pressures that come along with it, whether you like it or not. Brush up.